That's funny.
Have you thought of an entrance at all?
I have not thought of an entrance. I'll probably just like...
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm going through a very fun little Q&A process with... Yeah, anyway. If you were any breakfast cereal, what would it be?
I don't know. I think if I had to pick one that was most like me, it would probably be like Cheerios. But not just any Cheerios. It would have to be like Honey Nut Cheerios. Because like, I don't know, I'm kind of unassuming. But then like, you get into the actual cereal, it's not that bad. I think I'm the same way.
I think Cheerios are gross. Does ketchup belong on a hot dog?
Ketchup absolutely belongs on a hot dog. What? It absolutely belongs on a hot dog. I would say it's up there. And then like, I don't know. For me, I always choose ketchup and mustard. Like everything else, like you could say relish goes on it. You could say onions goes on it. You could say any whole host of things. But like as long as ketchup and mustard are involved, I think that's a good hot dog.
So who would win in a fight between a peanut butter sandwich and a taco? I have strong feelings about this.
You have strong feelings? Why?
I do. Well, I think you should answer it first.
A taco would win because it already has beef.
Anyway, it's a peanut butter sandwich. It doesn't say that it has jelly in it. And so that means it's stronger and it's going to stick to stuff and it's going to stick together. And I'm assuming by taco, they mean a hard shell taco, not a soft shell taco. It would be different if it was soft shell. But hard shell tacos are going to break and fall apart, and that peanut butter is going to be sticky to them. And so a peanut butter sandwich will win. Anyway, now we're going to go on to college football questions. So what is your opinion on the state of college sports with the addition of the transfer portal and NIL, plus teams losing historic rivalries for money and new conferences, such as Bedlam? What's Bedlam?
So Bedlam it used to be the yearly rivalry played between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. But when Oklahoma left the Big 12 for the SEC, it got harder to schedule that rivalry, and there's some sore feelings, obviously. So I'm not sure that game's going to come back sooner than people think it is. But honestly, I think as a whole, the sport's probably worse off than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I think there's always been people pushing realignment to make more money for the schools, make more money for the universities. I think we're at a point now where it's just open and obvious that these people that make the decisions don't necessarily care so much about tradition as they do about, the bottom line. And so as a whole, for the teams themselves, I don't think it's great. For the players, I think it's never been better. I think the transfer portal and NIL are good things that I think people need to be more mature about, specifically players. I know a lot of players get bad tips and enter the transfer portal when it's damaging to them, but mobility, I think, is important. And just like every other student is allowed to leave and go to a new university whenever they want to, I think it's good that student athletes are able to do the same thing.
Who's your sleeper pick for the CFB playoffs this season, and what does CFB stand for?
CFB is college football.
Why does college football need an acronym?
Because it's a big word. It's 2 words. You shorthand it to 3 letters.
Okay.
Sleeper pick is tough because we're 4 or 5 weeks into the season. Probably only 4. And really nobody has come out as like being really great. Obviously, I think you need to look at Georgia Tech and the ACC as a sleeper pick. But I mean, for the most part, like you don't really know who's going to be playoff contenders until around halfway through the season. I think you have to look at teams too. I mean, everybody's going to say Texas Tech, but everyone's saying Texas Tech, so I don't know how much of a sleeper they are anymore. Again, it's too early to tell, I think, for any of them.
So what would you change in the way rankings are made, and what are the possible options to change it?
I don't know much about possible options to change it, other than the one that I would really zero in on is probably just making sure that we don't do preseason poll rankings. We can do rankings probably around 4 or 5 weeks into the season. I don't necessarily agree with having rankings earlier than that, because I think poll inertia is a real thing, and I feel like it disproportionately affects a lot of higher level teams, and so we sort of lose some good teams from that. I think having a few weeks to examine the teams that we do have and see who's performing well and who isn't, and then giving voters a chance to determine who they think are the top 25, I think would be a better system than we have right now.
What is your favorite college football uniform? And if it's a K-State one, you have to give me one that's not a K-State one. You can give me two.
It's actually Tulane's. I think Tulane has a really nice powder blue uniform. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, hold on.
We love a good powder blue in this household. Well, Lucas might not, but I love KU's powder blue. I wish they would use it more. I think it's pretty. Ooh. Very nice. He'll put a picture on the screen.
I will.
It's very nice. I'm still a major green hater.
Well, they gotta have green. That's their first color. Their first color is green.
Green's an awful color. Their school color should not be green.
Yeah, I think Tulane's probably my answer for that one.
Which D2 teams do you think will be moving up next? Do you actually pay attention to D2 teams?
I do a little bit. If I had to pick one, though, probably West Florida down in Pensacola. The Argonauts, I think. The Argos. I think they're a program that's really improved over the last handful of years, and I think they do have the infrastructure to be able to make that change eventually, probably to the Conference USA, maybe in 10 to 15 years. I'm not sure if they're the next one, but they're the one that pops up to me off the top of my head. I'm not sure if there's any other ones. The only one that I can think of other than that is Washburn in Topeka has actually been having a lot of money come into the program recently. I'm not sure if it would be as easy for them to move up as it would for someone like West Florida, but I think they're another team to keep an eye on, probably.
Major Washburn supporters in this household. If you could revive any defunct bowl game, which one would it be?
There are a lot of really fun ones. I think if I had to pick one, though, probably the International Bowl in Toronto. It was played at the Rogers Center, which is where the Blue Jays play in the MLB. I just think it's cool to have another International Bowl game. Obviously, the Bahamas Bowl is kind of fun, if not weird.
They have baseball.
Yes. Toronto Blue Jays are the only one. There used to be the Expos in Montreal, and then they moved to Washington, D.C.
Why?
Money.
Crazy. Who do you think UCLA should hire as their new head coach?
I don't know. That one's tough. UCLA is simultaneously in a really great position and a really bad one. Obviously, they're in one of the two best conferences in college sports in terms of making money. They're in LA. They play in a historic stadium in the Rose Bowl. So their NIL has to be, at least in terms of their brand value, has to be pretty high. But at the same time, I know the athletic department is facing some problems, and they haven't really been able to hire a really great coach. I think Foster was mainly hired because he was the guy who picked up the phone and said he would do it. So I think to start, you have to get a coach that's really well-versed in NIL. And so he won't answer the call. He'll tell you no, but I think you start by making Kenny Dillingham at ASU tell you no. There's no way he leaves Arizona State, but you at least make that call. And then you make another call to Tony White at FSU, who I think turned them down last time. I think they called him and he told them no last time. And then after that, once those two guys tell you no, or if those two guys tell you no, then you hire a search firm and you go find someone else. But right now, I mean, those two would probably be the first two I call, make them say no, and then you go forward with another campaign. Why are you laughing?
I don't know, it's funny. I did skip a question though. What college football stadiums have you visited? And why haven't you visited KU's?
I have been to KU's.
When did you go to KU's?
2019, it was before their renovation. That stadium was bad and it definitely needed renovation. Yeah. I mean, I've been to a handful of them, obviously. When I worked with K-State, it was I went to, obviously, K-State Stadium, but then I went to West Virginia, Iowa State, Oklahoma. Oklahoma State. I went to Texas, Tulane with New Orleans. This wasn't when I was with video, but other bowl games. I mean, I went to Memphis for the Liberty Bowl. I've been to a few pro stadiums too. I've been to Arrowhead Stadium, but not for a Chiefs game. For K-State, Iowa State in 2010, which was a wild game. I've been to Dallas, the stadium down there. I've been to Houston. I've been to Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. I've been for the Fiesta Bowl in 2012. I went out to State Farm Stadium. So I've been a few places. I've been to a few stadiums in my time. I haven't been to a lot, but I've been to a few.
So I went through all these comments, by the way, and I very lovely put them into sections. And I went through all the effort, even though I didn't understand 90% of the words that was written. In this next question, I made a very non-educated guess and decided to put it in football, but I have no idea if it's football related. And the question is Vandy for real?
Yes.
Can I get clarification on what that question means?
Is the Vandy football team real good?
Who's the Vandy football team?
Vanderbilt in Tennessee.
I thought that was a last name.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't that like a Gossip Girl? I feel like one of their last names is Vanderbilt.
Maybe.
No, it's Legally Blondes.
Vanderbilt he was a rich guy.
Yeah.
So he made a university.
Legally Blondes, the brother of Elle's first boyfriend, I'm blanking on his name. He broke up with her, but his brother married a Vanderbilt. Anyway, you haven't seen Legally Blondes. Do you think Canada, Mexico, or any other non-US country will ever have a D1 football team? Maybe Ireland?
You know, I don't think so. I think there have been attempts that were made in the past. First off, overseas, absolutely not. The logistics there are just not, they don't work. I think if you're looking for an NCAA team, it kind of has to come from Canada, and we've already tried that, and it didn't work with Simon Fraser. And maybe if you get a team in like Toronto, but like already, it's complicated enough already. Like everybody on the opposing team has to get visas to play over there, and that's tough enough just when you're getting them to play, one game a season. Trying to get a team to play 11 games a season against the teams that are in different countries, I think is kind of difficult. So I don't think so. I think if it has to happen, it'll be a monumental task. And maybe someone will figure it out. Maybe someone in like the Monterey area or something like that. But man, it's really tough to say right now.
I would have never even thought about the visa issue.
Yeah.
That would have never popped in my head. All right, we are done with college football, or football in general, I guess. So, what's the coolest place you've traveled to, and where would you never go again? My guesses on where you'd never go again, if it wasn't for me, you would never go to New York, but because I want to go to New York, you're going there. And you would never go back to New Orleans. I have no idea where you say the coolest place you've been to, though.
New York was great if you're going to the place that's for tourists. Like that'll be my advice. If you're not going to places that's for tourists, you're just in people's way. And so I understand New Yorkers getting upset with people who are very clearly tourists and are just in their way. Could be a little bit nicer about it, though. New Orleans, no, I don't think I'd ever go back to New Orleans. It's wet Memphis. I know a lot of people in the South are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I had a better time in Memphis than I did in New Orleans. As for the best place I've ever been to, man, it's probably Arizona. I just love the country out there. I went for the 2012, I guess it was 2013, Fiesta Bowl. The game was over after the opening kick, but it was still a very fun. Oregon ran the first kick back for a touchdown.
Oh.
So K-State pretty much lost in the first play of the game. Yeah, it was tough. But no, I'd go back out to Arizona because it's beautiful country out there. I think it's honestly one of the prettiest states in the union, personally.
Someone also wants to know, have you ever been to Chicago? I don't think you've been because you've never mentioned anything about Chicago, but I could be wrong.
I have been to Chicago. I don't remember for what. I was pretty young. I remember walking around in Chicago for some reason or another, but I don't exactly remember what the family trip was for, but I have been to Chicago. I really liked it. I remember I was young. I thought skyscrapers were pretty cool. Um, but I think if I ever get the chance, I'd love to go back again. It's a great city, a lot of great people in it, and it would be fun to go back.
All right, now we're into football conferences, and I think I understood even less of the words in this area. But anyway, with teams leaving conferences now and conferences dying, Pac-12, Big East, do you think we'll eventually see new conferences?
I think we will eventually. I think it'll have to come organically. I don't know. I can't give an example of an organic conference starting right now, but I think we almost got it with the Pac-12. I don't really think you could honestly look me in the eyes and say that the Pac-12 that we're going to get next year is just a continuation of the same Pac-12 that we've had. Two teams are the same. And there was a whole drawn-out legal battle over keeping the names and the money and where it all goes. Like it's a different conference. It's the Pac-12, but it's a different Pac-12. And I think that's okay. I think if that's what you mean, yeah, I think we'll get new conferences. I think we'll get a new ACC. We might get a new Big 12. I don't know. Some funky stuff would have to happen for that. But I think in terms of just a brand new conference forming from other teams, I'm not sure in the power conference realm. Maybe if we got to pay attention to what happens with the Mountain West and the Conference USA and the American and the MAC, because I think some interesting stuff could happen there. If enough schools join one and then sort of leave one alone, I could see a merger happening and a new conference being made after that. But no, it's definitely an interesting concept and something we need to keep our eyes on.
Should the Sun Belts push to add FIU to expand their market, unlike Louisiana Tech?
Man, I think if they wanted FIU, they would have added them instead of Louisiana Tech. And I know why they added Louisiana Tech. It was to sort of keep UL Monroe alive and sort of around with travel costs and stuff like that, especially after Texas State left. But for me, FIU is an interesting school because they've got a great market in Miami. They just haven't really been able to put it together. Like they have a really low football winning percentage. And I'm not entirely sure that any of their other sports, like off the top of my head, I can't tell you anything special about their other sports. So really, as an athletics department, they have to put it together to be able to even make a case for a conference like the Sun Belt to take them. I think they would absolutely flourish if they were given the opportunity. I think you give them the chance, they would explode, but they need to prove that they're ready for that opportunity first. I think Willie Simmons is a great coach for football. I think he can definitely take them places, but it's going to take some time.
All right. I'd love to know what you would think about Wyoming in the new look pack. I think it's odd they weren't invited, especially given their history with CSU. Otherwise, I wonder if you think that we will see a wave of realignment in a few years, call it 10-ish, where football becomes single sport mega conferences, almost like hockey, and the rest of the college sport world goes back to regional all-sport conferences.
On the conferences front, I think you've hit the nail on the head, really. I think we're going to get football-only conferences and then a whole bunch of, specifically with Olympic sports, specifically with your sports like basketball and like swimming and tennis. Like I think that's really going to come down to it. But I do think we're going to get football-only conferences because I think it's only a matter of time before, Stanford and Cal are like, why are we here? Why are we playing Florida State and Boston College when Fresno State's right there? And like, I know it comes down to academics and, backroom deals and stuff like that, but there's a whole bunch of complaints being made about the well-being of the athletes, and I think that's entirely true. Like, we need to be focusing more on that for the teams that don't make us money. And so, yeah, I think we'll get football-only conferences, and then we'll get Olympic sport conferences after that. As for Wyoming, Wyoming is one of the least populated states in the United States. There are really, I think most of Wyoming counts under like the Denver TV market, which the Pac-12 already has with Colorado State. They're only a few miles away from Colorado State. And at the end of the day, I think it would be perfect for Wyoming to be in the Pac-12. I'm just not sure that the people who make the monetary decisions would ever even think of Wyoming being worth it in that situation. It's another problem with the way realignment is torn apart rivalries and traditions and stuff like that. Wyoming needs to be in a place with Colorado State, but the money just says they aren't worth it, which I think is a tragedy. It's a modern American sports tragedy.
Besides the two biggest conferences, what do you think will be the future of the Big 12 and the ACC?
Man, I think the two biggest conferences are just going to make their own NCAA, or I guess I should say they'll leave the NCAA. And then after that, like, I don't know. I don't know if the Big 12 and ACC are going to merge. I don't know if they're going to just be the top two in league number two or something like that. Like, I think it's wide open. And I think the fact that it's wide open scares quite a few people. But I think it's definitely something to be cautious of, definitely something to worry about, because I think we could be looking at a very different college sports landscape in just 10 years, if that. I don't think they would merge. I know everybody's saying, oh, when Clemson and Florida State and so-and-so move to the Big 10 or SEC, then the Big 12 is going to grab Louisville and Pitt and so on and so forth. And what I really think is going to happen is, I think if the SEC and the Big 10 decide to move, I think the Big 12 and the ACC will merge and just be college sports, really. I think they'd probably take the Pac-12. I think they'd take the American. And I think the lower level conferences get, screwed out of their minds. But I think then you start having a Western conference, which is Oregon State, Oregon, and BYU, and Boise State, like all those schools. And then you get a Central Conference that looks a little bit like the old Big Eight did, minus, of course, Nebraska and Oklahoma. I think we're looking at a very weird future for college sports, and I'm not entirely sure if that's a good thing or not.
What do you think will happen between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West in the future? What conference do you think will be in the crossfire in the future as well?
Man, I think eventually the Pac-12 will get what it wants. I'm not sure how you can look at the Mountain West right now and say they're on equal footing with the Pac-12. I think eventually UNLV and maybe Air Force will end up members of the Pac-12. And then by that point, the Mountain West is already on its heels. And they're probably in a position where they have to look at adding teams from the FCS. I think they made a good choice first off in getting UC Davis. I think that's probably the best FCS team they could have targeted. And now they're probably in a race with Conference USA for Tarleton State in Texas. Biggest conference I think it's caught in the crossfire here actually isn't Conference USA. I think it's the MAC. Ohio and Toledo were also having conversations with the Mountain West about football-only membership with Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois was the team that made the jump, but I mean, I think you can't just forget that the same thing happened with Toledo and Ohio. I think eventually the Mountain West is probably going to add Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky and probably Toledo. I don't know if that's going to be full membership or what. I'm not sure what the future for the Mountain West looks like as an all-sports conference. But especially when UC Davis moves up, I think they have a lot of options to move up, but I'm not sure if any of them are going to be great. And I think the MAC, which is already a conference that's been teetering on falling back into the FCS for a while. I mean, Eastern Michigan was almost kicked out in the 80s or 90s just so they could stay at the FBS level. And like obviously right now, Akron and Kent State aren't looking so great. This is a conference that's been grandfathered in legally to the FBS because they'd already been there. I don't know what the future looks like for them. And I know it's going to make a lot of people sad, but like they're in a really, really precarious situation right now as a conference, and they needed to go grab a school like Middle Tennessee or West Kentucky to just stay up, and they didn't. So we'll just have to wait and see.
So do you think the ACC will try to get Notre Dame to join them in football in order to become a super conference, or will Notre Dame remain independent / join the Big 10? Why do all of these conferences have big in their names? How uncreative were we?
The main reason why they're called big is a long time ago, newspapers were more regional. And so you have a conference in Kansas that says, hey, we got 6 schools and they're big schools. We're the big 6. And everyone in the Midwest is like, yeah, you guys are the big 6, or yeah, you guys are the big 10. And then out West, you had people in California say, oh, we got 8 schools that are big. We're the big 8. So you have 2 different big 8s and 2 different big 6s. And eventually someone files a trademark once nationalization happens with the media. And then by that point, you get to the 80s and 90s when people are changing names for conferences and stuff like that. And I mean, we're already the Big Eight. We've been the Big Eight forever. So we're just the Big Eight. We can't change that now. We lose our brand. So, yeah. What was the question? I think the ACC's been trying. I think they've been trying probably since like 2010 or whenever it was that Notre Dame ditched the Big East for the ACC. And I think Notre Dame's answer is going to be the same then as it was now, which was no. And like, if I'm Notre Dame right now, if I'm going to join a conference, why would it be the ACC? Why would it not be the Big Ten? So I think Notre Dame values their independence a lot more than people think they do. I don't think they'll make that change at all. But if they do, it'll probably be for the Big Ten.
It's a two-part question. When will the MVOS collab be? And do you believe Tulane should be in a P4 conference? What is P4?
Power conference. It's powerful.
Okay.
The MVOS collab will be whenever MVOS and I decide that there needs to be a collab. He's obviously a great creator. I would love to collaborate with him on something, but I don't know. We'll just have to see in that department. Does Tulane belong in a Power 4 conference? I have thought they had since at least like 2012. I wanted the Big 12 to add them, and they didn't. So I guess we'll see in the future if they're considered for a spot in the ACC or something like that. I think they would make a great addition if they were to make that change, especially now with the athletics department on the up and up. But again, yeah, it's something that we'll have to see. I personally think they do.
Sorry. Okay, so what's your go-to Chipotle order? And I have the receipts.
No, you do.
I have the receipts. We haven't ordered from my app since May 30th. But on May 30th, you got a chicken burrito bowl with white rice, half black beans, half pinto beans, and tomatillo red chili sauce. Yeah. Red chili salsa, because you are a hater and don't like cheese. Is this a correct order?
This is the correct order. Yeah.
Yes, but Chipotle charges you more for queso. And as an avid cheese lover, we go to Qdoba because they don't charge me more for my queso.
She likes the cheese, so we get her the cheese. If she's going, we go to Qdoba. If it's just me, then I'm going to Chipotle.
Okay, this next question is, did you play any sports in high school or college? And I don't believe you did sports in college. No. I might be wrong. Mm-hmm. But in high school, you did cross country. Yep. You did stats for basketball. Yep. So you didn't play basketball, but you did stats for it. Mm-hmm. And then in the spring, you did track. But yes. I don't know what all events you did in track.
Okay. You go from long distance and cross country, and then I did sprints. Anything that had a 4x in it, I did it. I ran the 4x1, medley relay, 4x4, 4x8, which isn't a sprint. But I really specialized towards sprints in my junior and senior years. But I also ran the mile a couple times. Never ran the 2 mile, but I ran pretty much everything. I didn't do any field events though. I was a one-trick pony, and that was go fast. Yeah, I don't know. You can probably find my stats out there somewhere. I wasn't all that great, but I was varsity. I'll take that with me. I was varsity. I was good enough, dang it. Mm-hmm. I was good enough.
He also was a choir kid. He did choir all 4 years of high school. And against his will, his first year, by the way. And he did a musical his senior year. He did Addams Family. I couldn't tell you what character he played because I've never actually seen Addams Family, but he did do it. Okay, now we're moving on to K-State, your favorite topic right now. You're going to love this. How do you feel about the current K-State football season? I know you went to K-State, but I was wondering what you got your major in. And were you always a K-State fan, or did you become one when you enrolled? He became one when he enrolled. He had never supported K-State a day in his life before stepping foot on that campus. Was an avid, middle ground person. You might cut this, but we've been looking at photos of us since we were born for the wedding coming up, and creating a PowerPoint for it. And I think just about every single year of a photo that his mom sent me, he is in something K-State. Like, I asked for like 5-10 photos of every age to put out, and almost every single year there is something K-State.
I actually majored in English, which is, you don't really see that many people interested in sports major in English. But I've always enjoyed writing. I like to think I'm a good writer, and I like to think that I can sort of communicate stories well, obviously, or else I wouldn't be here doing this right now.
Okay, who is your favorite player to ever play for K-State?
Favorite player? I know a lot of people are going to say Klein or Bishop. For me, actually, it's different. It's Darren Sproles, and there's a reason for it. Back when I was in high school, I'm not a very tall guy, and I was an even shorter kid. And I loved sports, but I had always sort of told myself, especially in middle school and early high school, that there was no way I'd be able to compete because I was 5'0" and 100 pounds. And I'd had a lot of struggles convincing myself that it was possible for me to even really compete in anything I was doing. And then you go watch that 2003 Kansas State team, and you see a guy who's 5'0", probably 100 pounds, who's just faster than anybody else on the field. He runs circles around people, and he takes screen passes to the house against a team that shouldn't have lost to anybody and got blown out 35-7 in Kansas City. And so, like, you look at, for me specifically, Darren Sproles, in a weird roundabout way, actually gave me the confidence to believe in myself as an athlete, which blended over into believing in myself as a person. And so, obviously, if I had to pick one all time, it has to be Darren Sproles, because he showed me that I can really do whatever I want to if I can put my mind to it. I think it's so much more important than just how good of a football player he was.
All right, and what is your editing software?
I use a software called DaVinci Resolve, which is basically like Adobe products, except you don't have to pay money for the privilege of having it. It's done a really great job with what I've needed it to do. Obviously, there are better editing softwares and, different ways to make videos out there than DaVinci Resolve, but it's what I have. It's what's worked for me for close to, I guess it's over 2 years now. Wow. No, that's what I have, and I think you can go out and find it look up DaVinci Resolve. You can probably find it pretty easily.
Now we get into video ideas. You guys had some ideas about videos.
They're so creative.
So The Ballad of Bubba was a great video, and although it was a story of a minor league player, the video made it interesting. Do you plan on branching into other sports?
I have occasionally. This past year, I had the thought about making a history of the MLB video, and obviously that never got around to happening. It's probably too late now. But I've had thoughts about history of the MLB, history of the NFL, history of the NBA, stuff like that. Just because I'm running out of conferences to make histories of. You're going to be hard-pressed to tell me that a video about the history of the American East is going to get much more than 4,000 views or 5,000 views. Maybe there's a few that I could go out and do, like the Ivy League. I've heard some people talk about Big West. I'll probably do eventually. But right now, like, if I wanted to make a video on a sport outside of football, which I do, there'd have to be a story there that I think is important to tell.
All right. Would you be interested in doing another history series with a different team outside of K-State?
Probably not. The main reason why I'm putting so much time and effort into pulling up this history of K-State in the detail that I'm doing it is because that's my school. Like, I know this history. I know where to find stuff on this. And I just would not have the passion to do it for a school like Tennessee or a school like Notre Dame. Like, I just... I don't want to sound mean here, but like, those aren't my people. Like, I don't know them. And I would think I would be a terrible person to tell their story because I just don't know them. I think people who are from those schools or who are deeply involved there should be the ones to tell those stories, not me. I'm telling K-State's story because in a roundabout way, it's mine and it's everyone else's who's been there. Originally, it just started out as a story of 1998. Well, you can't tell the story about 1998 without putting it in its context. And when you put it in its context, you can't just put it in the Bill Snyder context. You have to put the Bill Snyder context in the context of everything else because the turnaround isn't as impressive if you don't know that there was a straight cliff that they fell off of. So like really it came up because I wanted to tell one story, and that one story became 3,000 stories. But I don't think I'm the person to tell those stories for other universities, because they're not mine. That's not my history. That's someone else's.
Will there be a video on the history of the American Athletic Conference soon?
I already made it 2 years ago. It's called The History of the Big East. And really, when you look into it, the history of the American Conference is the history of the Big East. So if enough people want me to revisit it, I could, but I feel like I've already touched up on it. I've already told that story.
Will there be a redone Big 12 history video?
Yeah, absolutely, at some point. Like, enough has changed in the last 2 years that there has to be one. If you haven't seen the original Big 12 history video, don't. It's bad. Wait for me to do the next one.
Will you ever do a SoCon conference history video? What is SoCon?
The SoCon is the Southern Conference. I don't know, man. Like, that's such a deep conference history, too. Probably eventually. Pretty much every big-time Southern team that's in a power conference now has come from the SoCon. I'll have to eventually, probably. Yeah, you're right. I'll probably have to do one eventually.
Would you ever cover the Navy/Service Academy football?
I think that's another situation of if enough people wanted it. I'm not sure enough people want it. If enough people do want it, then yeah, probably, if there's an interesting story there for me to tell. And I do think there's an interesting story there.
I support these next two video ideas. I think they'd be cool. So the first one is, would you be interested in making a video ranking the 6 major conferences based off of impact, history, prestige, conference championships, national championships, bowl games, draft picks, Heisman winners, all-time players to play in the conference, etc., and give a reason why you place each conference at whatever spot you have them at? The Heisman, I know what the trophy looks like. That's a college award, right?
Yes.
And is that only freshmen?
Mm-hmm.
It's all...
Yeah, it can be anybody.
But you can only win it once, right?
No, you can win it multiple times.
Oh, everything I know about football is a lie.
You can, it's just really hard, because a lot of times the committee will want to give it to somebody who's never had it before. It's the MVP, essentially.
I really thought it
College
was just
sports.
freshmen.
No. Boy, that sounds like a lot of math. That sounds like a lot of math, going through and picking stuff up. I mean, spreadsheets, yeah. If I could make it, boy, it's going to be a big video, and there's going to be a lot of math involved in that. So maybe we'll see. Again, if enough people want to watch it, then it'll get made. But geez, that's a lot of math. And then I'd have to come up with a formula that's rough, that could say this plus this plus this plus this with this different weight and this different thing makes this conference up here, and then this one up here, and then this one up here. I'd make a lot of people upset with that. I'd make me upset with that. Yeah, I probably need to make that video. Yeah.
It says maybe less of a Q&A question and more of a video concept, but I'd love to see someone else's take on what the dream CFB stadium would look like. Having been to KU's new half stadium comparing it to their old half along Snyder's family stadium, I've a ton of do's and don'ts for what makes a stadium good, and I'm curious where other opinions there are. How do you shape the seating? Where/when do you do a second tier of seating? Where do the premium, suites, boxes go, etc.?
You know, I think this is a great video. I think this is a great video idea. I don't think I'm the right person to do it. You know who I do think the right person to do it is, though? Is GFed. GFed has a series where he's gone, I think, to just about every single FBS program stadium out there. He knows what works and what doesn't. And I think this would be a great opportunity for him to make a video like that.
So that is the end of video ideas. So how would you rank your top 3 favorite sports? I don't know how you would rank them. My guess, I know you love baseball, and I guess you like football. I don't entirely know what you would put as your third sport, but I feel like you would put baseball first.
It's weird because it's different between like playing and watching. Like, I love playing baseball. Like, if it's about playing, baseball's my number 1. And then it's probably football and then basketball. If it's watching, it's football, then basketball, then baseball. But it's so different depending on what the question's about.
I literally had to get paid the last 2 years to watch football, to show up to the stadium. I did not do that for free. All right. Would you want an NBA and or an NHL team in the Kansas City area, and would having said team make you watch the sport more? So I'm going to also add, how much of the sport do you watch right now? Do you have a current NBA team? Do you have a current NHL team?
I don't, man. I don't watch the NBA or the NHL. I do think that would change if Kansas City got a team, though. It's really hard for me to care about professional basketball. I'm way more of a college basketball guy. I don't know. I just don't like pro ball. I've seen three professional basketball games, and I wasn't entertained in any of them. Which I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know. It just didn't match the vibe, I guess, of what I was looking for. And then hockey, like, I'm just not into hockey. I'm just not into hockey right now. If Kansas City got a team, that would probably change. But I'm just not. I don't know much about hockey. I'm from the middle of Kansas. We don't know what hockey is.
He lied. He's going to be watching lots of hockey. The Seattle Kraken season starts on the 21st, September 21st, which will probably be past by the time this video is out. But we won't be watching that game. But we will be watching the Seattle Kraken. That is our hockey team. He just doesn't know it yet. We will be watching as many games as we can. If you could, I guess you kind of answered this one a little bit with video, but my take with this question is, what sports history do you really enjoy looking into, I guess, outside of football? So if you could do deep dive sports history of anything other than college football, what would it be? So what fascinates you?
No professional sports league, in my opinion, has undergone as many significant changes and as many moves and as many big, important eras as baseball. Professional baseball is a league that's hundreds of years old and has featured so many teams that don't exist now. And like, really, it just comes down to a league that's been constantly changing. There's been so much. And like I mentioned, the possibility of doing a history of the MLB video before, that would probably have to be 3 videos. Like, there would be multiple eras that I would have to go through, and it would be a monster to cover. And I think I would have fun doing it. Eventually I'll have to get around to making that, because it just is so interesting to see. Like, we had teams in, like, a whole bunch of teams up in the Northeast, and then once America really started to get bigger, then we started saying, okay, well, maybe we can put a team in California, maybe we can put a team in the Midwest, and then eventually that came down south, and now we have teams in Florida, and we have a team in Georgia, and we're potentially looking at now putting a team in Tennessee, putting a team in Utah. We used to have 2 teams in Canada, now we have 1. So there's so much change that's happened to baseball. I think there's just so many stories there that could be told, that I think if I did make a video on baseball, I think I would have a whole bunch of fun doing it. And I think it would have to start with the history of the MLB.
That's it. That's the end of all of our questions. Unless you want to keep yapping about something, I love hearing you talk. So
listen, it's been a little over 2 years, right? And when I first started this by making the history of the Big 12 video, I did not think I would be in a position where 2.5 years later, I would have a small football stadium worth of people who are excited to watch my videos come out. 25,000 people is a lot. Like, I know I'm not anywhere near as big as some of those other creators out there, but man, 25,000 people is a lot. I read pretty much every comment that the video gets, and I try to take people's opinions into account. And I've kept pushing forward, trying to make content that you guys want, but also content that I like doing. Most of the time, that's an overlap, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful that you guys are patient. I don't know why you keep showing up for a guy who consistently mispronounces things and has bad green screen and just absolutely botches placements on maps. But I appreciate it. You guys have made these last couple of years absolutely enjoyable for me. And I do hope in the future that I'm able to keep making the type of things that you guys want to keep sitting down and watching. And this isn't in a vacuum. Like, I do have people who've been helping me. Obviously, I have some of the best in the world at hyping me up and making sure that I'm getting the support that I want. Can't forget my family. My family and friends have been great too, but also just in the YouTube space. I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with and meeting Scott Fisher and Cole Adams, Empire, obviously. Dalton's ideas, Walk the Line has been great. Saturday Shenanigans, like there are so many people that I don't even think I've recognized how much of an impact they've had on my life, and they have had a huge impact. And so if you guys haven't, be sure to check those guys out. It's been a great 2.5 years. And so I'm hoping that you guys will continue to stick around for however long I choose to do this. And thank you. At the bottom of my heart, thank you. You guys have been awesome. Don't forget to be kind to each other. I'll see you guys next time.